Hey, what's up everybody? It's Coach Mike with Elite Performance and welcome to my channel. I wanted to do a video today to talk to you about an urban myth. And that urban myth is that we as human beings only use 10% of our brain. Right? And if we can use more, then we'd be super smart, but hey, we only use 10%, so that's what we got. Right? Where did that number come from? Where did that ideology of we only use 10% come from? Well, a really long time ago, when looking at the body through histology and the way that cells organize into organs, we found out a fact about the brain that was very interesting. And what we found was that only 10% of the brain is made up of neurons. The other 90% is made up of connective tissue and supporting tissue that were named glial cells. All right, so in the neuron doctrine says that the neurons are the part of the brain that we actually think with, and these glia cells are only there for support. So right there, you're only using 10% of your brain, right? Well, like I said, that ideology is antiquated. It's outdated. Over the last few decades, what we've come to understand is that these glia cells are actually pretty important. They can inhibit neurons, they can activate neurons, they can connect to neurons, they can actually control the neurons. All right, so to use a stick figure, all right, there's a stick figure. The stick figure would represent the neurons, all right? But if you add in dimensions and colors and backgrounds, that's the glial cells. Or to say the neurons would be the nouns in a sentence. The glial cells would be the adjectives, the adverbs, the modifiers, and all of these other things, right? So right there, you have access to 100% of your brain all the time. We are not limited to 10%. Now, do we use 100% of the brain all the time? No, we don't. Somewhere around the age of 7, maybe 8, is when we start to be what's called brain dominant. Either we're predominantly in the left hemisphere, which is logic, or we're predominantly in the right hemisphere, which is emotion. And actually what's happening is we're bouncing back and forth through both hemispheres all days, and we're in what's called a beta brain state. Right? Just going back and forth. And like I said, it starts to happen at around age 7 to 8, and it starts to happen because of programming. Programming that has to do a lot with school and how we're programmed to not use our brain by school. So we live our pretty much entire life being what's called brain dominant, either over here or over here. And that's very limiting because if you're only looking at a problem or looking at a situation from logic, then there's no emotion. But if you're only looking at it from emotion, then there's no logic. You always have an incomplete picture. It's hard to process anything when the picture is incomplete, right? So being able to create what's called hemisync, both sides of the brain working together, makes you more effective at just going through life. It makes you better at life because you have access to both parts of the brain. Well, interestingly enough, and what I'm gonna tell you is gonna sound so simple that a lot of you might dismiss it, and I beg you don't dismiss it, because the things that seem the most simplest, 9 times out of 10 are the most effective. When things are complicated and difficult, then they're probably not the right way. All right, so like I said, a lot of people take simple things as to be not effective, but trust me, this works. It's called brain gym, okay? And what brain gym is my right hand is controlled by the left hemisphere, right? And my left hand is controlled by the right hemisphere. But when I move my right hand into the left side of my body, it's picked up by the other hemisphere because it's in that territory, and vice versa. All right. So what Brain Gym has taught us is that simply crossing my arms or crossing my legs creates synchronization in the brain hemisync because I've moved this arm or leg or foot or whatever into this hemisphere. This is the reason why you can go home and sit down and start relaxing, and without even thinking or knowing what you're doing, you cross your ankles. Okay? Brain gym is extremely effective in bringing that hemisync. What are the benefits? Number one, super learning. You have the ability to learn information at an amazing rate because you're using your whole brain. You can process information really, really quick. I mean, really fast information processing and information recall, because again, now you're not using 10% of your brain, you're using all of your brain. Using all of your brain creates a calmness and also a peace inside. So bringing this synchronicity into the brain, hemisync, is extremely important. It's extremely valuable. It's something that is, science has caught up to this over the last few decades, but these are all ancient techniques. This is another biohack. Now, I've done a video talking about biohacks and breathing techniques and how to synchronize the heart and the brain. And all of these techniques are extremely ancient. It's just that science is now catching up to what the ancients knew. So if you want to know more about brain gym, get on YouTube. There's tons of videos out there all talking about brain gym and just how to do it, because it's actually an exercise that you would do. And it's really effective. They use it all over the world. Not so much in America, as always, but it's really effective and it's a great tool to have. So I hope that helped you out. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I'll try to get to them as soon as possible. But until next time, Coach Mike with Elite Performance. And remember, we want to see you happy and healthy.